Hello and welcome to the next ReeVlog. Sorry about the noise, I'm actually just going to reduce it a little bit. That's probably a lot better. Let me just clamber onto my bed over here. Can't have too much cleavage showing, I'll get my video taken down. So, I'm so small on screen for once. Right, this is the next ReeVlog, and I am going to try and get comfortable. Out there. So, what am I here to talk about today? Several things. We've got VR escape rooms. I'm back to work tonight and I'm tired. And we've got updates on supplements, medication, fitness stuff. I'm going to try and go through them quickly and in that order, but we know how me trying to do things quickly often ends up. How? VR escape rooms. Did one on Saturday. It's the first VR one I've done. It's the first proper VR thing I've done. I played VR golf briefly before, but that was about it. And it was good. The specifics on it are quite interesting. So it was a VR escape room. Don't know the name of the company. I didn't book going. It was me and one of my friends meeting up for a catch up after a long time, so that was like the event we were going to go and do, and then we just like grabbed a drink and went from there. So the escape room though, you put the headset on, you get little handles, don't know what type of headset it was, whatever. I could get a little bit of light come through my nose sometimes, but other than that, pretty good fit on the old headset. The handle thingies, joystick controllers, we only needed one button for the escape room, and it had four, so it had trigger, button, and then joysticks. Just needed this trigger, I believe, from memory. And it was interesting because obviously it's in a limited space, so you don't move around a lot, and there are apparently other escape rooms where you do actually move around more, and in those, the person or people who you're with their like avatar is in the same place in relation to you as they are in real life, so that you don't walk into each other. And that's something that we experienced later on, because we had an hour booked. We finished the escape room just over 30 minutes, and so we did like a couple arcadey games, and they were like that, so everything was in relation to where you were. The interesting part is that obviously there's a possibility of like walking into a wall, and they have it set up so that there is a please return to play area thing pop up if you go a certain way. You can't keep moving in that direction if you were to keep walking in that direction. So you then return to the play area, but how do you get to those areas? That was what the trigger was for. It was partially, if you want to pick something up, put your fake hand near it, pull the thing, and you should grab it if it's grabbable. But if you hold it down, it shoots like a laser, and wherever the laser lands, provided it was in a it was an area that you were allowed to go, you could teleport to it. There's also a range limit, but that was pretty cool. So that was good fun. There was a little bit of like interactiveness between the two sides, so we start off separately, had to move some cogs from one side of a thing to another, to their side of the thing, and vice versa, through like a little window. But other than that, it was just, could have all been done by one person, with the exception of some parts where my player character had to use bow and arrow to shoot some like little dots to get handholds for the other person to move around, and then they had to like crank a wheel to move a pillar so that I could climb. But no, it was very fun. Definitely enjoyed it. Would definitely do more. I'm not sure if I prefer that to normal escape rooms, because the don't climb things rule makes way more sense when there's not actually anything there to climb. Because I was like, you know, if this were real life, I could probably climb this. But no. But also, if it were real life, Would we have been able to do the monkey bars to get across like a cavern? Also probably no. Whatever. Yeah, so I've done one of those. That was good. On to point 2. I have work tonight, the first out of my set of 4 shifts. Hopefully it's going to go well, we'll find out, but I am rather tired, and it's a slightly higher fatigue than it has been recently in general, and I imagine that in part comes from my drive back yesterday. So yesterday was outside of my normal sleep schedule. Was it yesterday? No, it was the day before yesterday, Saturday. Driving back on Saturday. Saturday was outside my sleep schedule, so I went to bed probably like 1 or 2 in the morning because I just wasn't tired, really. And I was like, well, I've got to do something because I wouldn't be able to sleep if I went to bed. So I went for a long walk, then I went to bed. Saturday, I must have woken up regularly between then and like 5 or 6, and then I got up and I did a little bit of housework, not a whole lot, and did some food, got everything ready, had some food, went to see my friend, and it was about an hour's drive, and the drive there was pretty fine. When I got there, traffic was horrendous. The car park that I was going into, there was a learner, and I believe it was their first time trying to like reverse into a parking space, and I ended up with a queue behind me. Great. But that was fine, you know, everyone's got to learn, so I wasn't mad, I was a little impatient because it took them like 3-5 minutes to do it, and it involved lots of stops for a prolonged period of times, assumedly, where they were like, okay, instructor, what do I do now? The instructor would tell them, they'd be like, okay, so I turn the wheel like this far, and they'd be like, no, just a little bit more, a little less, whatever. That was interesting. The way back, however, going through, there was a set of traffic lights, they were green, and it was 3 lanes, 1 turn left, 1 go forward, 1 turn right. Nice and simple, right? I was turning right, person in the middle lane swerved like halfway into my lane as we were parallel and almost hit me. And like, I don't know if you get this, but when I get like that adrenaline spike from dangers like that, I can feel it almost like as if my hairs were like gone, there was no pores in my skin and they just burst through like spikes, just I can feel it. Usually it's like just my arms or whatever, or like up my spine a little bit. But I got that then, and that is always for me like a fatigue trigger. That like sharp boost. That means later on I'm gonna crash. And I think that I'm still sort of in the recovery phase from that incident. But I got home, had a nap, got up like 3.5 hours later. Didn't do very much, I just played some Hades 2. Very fun game. I really just want to wake up Hypnos, and then I can call it quits for a while. I think that my thumb's getting like RSI from all of the button mashing that I do, but whatever, it's fine. Eventually, I will wake up Hypnos, but I was still, you know, a little tired, definitely still fatigued, so I did that for a while, got up, had some food, went for a walk, and it was a reasonable walk. I think my watch tapped it in at about 4,000 steps, which, you know, not a huge amount, but I did start before midnight, so it reverted to 0, so it was minimum 4,000 steps, and then I stopped off at my car, had a drink, and then kept going for another, what am I at now? I'm currently at 9,500, so probably like another 5,000 steps, at about 9,000, because I've walked around the flat a bit today since I got up. And so yeah, that was pretty good, I'd say. Felt good. My knee tendon was playing up a bit on that second walk, and I'm not 100% sure why. It might be because usually whilst I do sort of in between 12 and 20,000 steps at work, I do them broken up into batches. So it's drive somewhere, walk around, drive somewhere, walk around, and repeat. And some of that will be the morning part of my shift and broken up by the end of the shift to the start of the next shift, and then it'll be the evening part of the shift. Combined will make up that amount of steps. So there's lots of breaks, one large break and lots of short ones, effectively. And that's, you know, it's a lot of steps, but I think with that rest, there's less time under tension without recovery. And you know, there's not a lot of tension going into walking, but it's like a lot of movement still, and there is some tension, and obviously it's a lot for my knee. And I think that going through that, because it wasn't necessarily pain, there was probably a smidge of pain, but mostly just discomfort. I think that going into that range of discomfort might be a good thing, kind of like pump work, which is what I'm effectively doing to try and rehab it. Is lots of range, like mobility work and pump work. But regardless, then I went to sleep, didn't sleep very well, kept waking up a little bit. Partially my fault because I didn't manage to secure my curtain or makeshift blind behind. I've got like a little screw in the wall either side, and I fit it behind that to stop light coming around the side as much. I didn't do a very good job of that, it seems, before I went to sleep, because the far corner was out and light was shining, and I've got like a punch baggy thing on the wall which is white, so it reflected right at me. And whenever my little eye mask slipped, I was like, oh, it's so bright. So, yeah, that's most likely the mixture of why I'm tired. Recovery from the fatigue spike that was caused by the adrenaline spike, which was caused by my potential near-death experience. And also just a general, like, insufficient amount of sleep. That said, I've been relatively productive so far today. I intend to do some more. I woke up earlier than I would have liked. I believe I was awake in the AM, which is just terrible for me. But whatever. My alarm's going to go off in 25 minutes. I set it a bit earlier than I usually do, just because I was like, right, I'm going to need a bit of extra time because I'll probably still be a bit fatigued and tired. Well, I got the extra time. Hopefully it'll mean that I can get everything I need to get done and have like a teensy tiny little like pseudo nap before I then get ready to go to work. When I'm going to work, I'm going to stop at the shop to get more just bottles of drinks to have in the car, because I've realised I am either out or down to one, can't remember which, and I like to have those in the car in case I forget my actual water bottle when I'm at work, because they go in the work bag. That way they'll always be with me when I'm at work, so I'll always have a drink on hand should I need one. And you know, I try to always keep at least one water bottle with me, and then sometimes I'll go with like a can of juice or whatever as well, or like a flask of tea and so on and so forth. But emergency supplies are good. On to the final thing. Supplements, medication and health, etc. Obviously I've spoken a little bit about health, with what with my knee and the walking and the fatigue and all that jazz. But I have noticed that I've done some runs out in the real world. 2, in fact, over my time off. And I was quite pleased with the first one and accepting of the second one in relation to the first one. So the first one I did just over a kilometre run in 5 minutes 27 seconds. It was 1.01 kilometres. So not a whole, like, not super far, but the pace I was very happy with. At the end of it, I wasn't like heaving full breath. I was actually mostly okay. Switched to walking, didn't actually stop at all, and then I was pretty happy with that. Kept walking. I think I ended up doing about 3 kilometres before I then paused at a park, did some stretching, and then kept walking and found my way home. The second run, I did 1 kilometre in 5 minutes 28 seconds. So slightly less distance, slightly longer time. But I was cold, I was tired, and it was just like very close. So it, the app that I used, that's probably within the margin of error. And even then, 5 minutes 27 is faster than the 6 minutes and 27. I mean, 5 minutes 28 is faster than 6 minutes 27, which is what I usually do on the treadmill at the gym. Treadmill at the gym, I go for a further distance, so I'll do it for 20 minutes roughly. Sometimes I'll do it for 15, and I'll include the warm up and cool down in that 20-minute window. Depends how much time I've got, but effectively this has shown me that I can probably up that 20 minutes of running to somewhere like in the middle, so closer to 6 minutes per kilometre instead of 6 minutes 27, and then get steady with that. And then I should be able to do my in real life 1 kilometres a little bit faster, and so on and so forth, and eventually get to a point where I'm close back to where I was before. Definitely need to work on rehabbing the knee and my feet. Mostly the plantar fasciitis in my right foot, but also my left ankle mobility is still lesser than my right, which might cause issues in the long run if I don't work to resolve it. It's the sort of thing that I might end up having to ask my brother about or go see my physio about, because I'm not really sure what to do to improve it, because it feels like there's a blockage. My current plan is to work strength in that end range of motion, so because it could be something that my body's doing of like, oh, you're really weak here, so I'm not going to let you go further through whatever like method it does. If I work the strength in that end range of motion, you get that little bit of spillover, especially like with isometrics. They say it's like 30 degrees, 15 either side or whatever. If I can improve my strength at that bottom part, that little bit of spillover will also improve, therefore it might let me go further. We'll see if that works, and if it doesn't, then I'll speak to someone about it. As far as my injuries go, plantar fasciitis is improving, I think, still slowly, but still improving, so thumbs up on that front. My knee has had little noticeable improvement recently. It hasn't deteriorated, I would say, with the potential exception of that walk last night, technically this morning, where it was sort of really discomforted by a long walk. But again, it is what it is, and the pain with it mostly seems kind of random, unless I'm obviously putting tension through it for a prolonged period of time. So I think it might just be too continuous or not enough rest time in between certain things. The weird part is though that I didn't notice it, I don't think, when I went to collect my car from its MOT earlier in the year. So maybe it has got worse since then, or maybe it's just that the walking combined with my other training that might have caused it. Don't know. My elbow, mostly okay. I think that at this point it is going to have to be a matter of, again, sort of like pump work. I need to get blood flow to it, because I don't train heavy very often at all, and that's currently a good thing, and I will change that eventually, I'm sure. But for now, time under tension is very important, and blood flow is very important, so I'll probably end up doing sort of a little bit of isometric work for time under tension, which I can do through the lens of Kung Fu, which is like a double whammy, get extra practice, and get those benefits to the tendon itself, and then follow that up immediately with isolated pump work to try and get as much blood flow through and to the area as possible. So that way it should promote like the actual part, like healing stuff required, and get it there. Same sort of deal with my shoulder, which is my last major injury to talk about. It's improving, but slowly, and I'm just going to keep on doing what I have been doing, which is lots of like grease the groove type mobility work, be it just like raising my arms over my head, doing some like static stretches, and then adding like a gentle isometric component to it, such as like bending over, putting my hands on a countertop, or my elbows on a countertop, getting into that like stretched position, and then applying force through the shoulders into the countertop to build strength in that end range of motion again. So again, it's working, so I'm doing something right. Then we have like minor injuries or scars. This finger, I broke it once or fractured it, and I think it might have healed wrong because during certain moves of Kung Fu, it hurts in here, which I'm pretty sure is where the break was. And they are specifically movements that sort of apply force this way or this way, not this way. So it's going along the finger, more so. Or it's actually going that way or that way, judging by the shape of the fist. I've not got a lot to do for that. I'm going to look into Wolf's Law again to see whether I might be able to promote healing through something like it, in which case I'll get the massage gun given to me by my brother. It's got like a hard attachment. I can get it, hold it very, very gently to it to create lots of tiny little bumps on it, which hopefully will have a similar effect to more conventional bone conditioning to promote the healing once again. Issue is that it is on my right side, unlike all of my other injuries. And then scar, the deviated septum thing, it's improving. I do have to like shove my fingers up my nose it quite frequently. I need to remember to use the scar ointment that I've got and do it regularly, but I do find that once I've done it with the scar ointment, it increases my mucus production for a while, which makes it hard to breathe through my nose. And I'm practicing breathing through my nose better to prevent things like snoring and whatnot being as much of an issue. That sort of, for now, I think, is all my injury stuff. So let's quickly move on to my supplements and medication. Today I ran out of inositol. I'm not getting any more for now. I'm going to leave it probably 2 weeks, see if there is any noticeable downside to not getting any more. If there is, I will get more. If there is not, I will not. I need to put it in the calendar to remind me, like, hey, how you doing without the inositol? Overall, I started the inositol at the same time I started the choline. I don't think it had a huge effect, but I ran out before and I did get more. So I'm not sure whether I've done this experiment before. But I might have also ran out of other things. Currently though, that's the only thing that I don't have any of. So I've still got the rest of my supplements, and so if not having it makes a difference, I'll get more. If not, then it's probably being covered by the batch of everything else, whatever it does is being covered, because I always forget what each individual thing does. The phosphatidylserine, I'm very confident is still helping, but again, it might be the ADHD medication that is helping, because I started them one day and then the next day, and I've been taking both since. I'll find out, I suppose. As for the ADHD medication, my short-term memory has improved marginally, if at all. Like remembering where I put my keys. I've not forgotten where I put my keys since I started it, but I also didn't forget them every day. I have certain places where I tend to put them. Usually next to my computer, up there is where they live. Currently, they're over there, because I have a couple other things that I need to over there. Sorry, I noticed my hand was out of the frame. I've got a couple other things that I need to take down to the car with me when I'm ready for leave for work. So I've put my keys with them so I don't forget them. Genius plan is something that I got used to doing, so I didn't forget other things, like when I go to visit my mum or whatever. If she's like, "Oh, here, darling, have some grapes," very accurate to how my mum sounds, I'll put my keys with the grapes so I don't forget to take the grapes with me, as an example. So I don't really know if it's helped that much, but it might be just helping with like mental clarity, because whilst these past few days have been a lot less on the mental clarity, like there's been more brain fog, but that just comes with the increase in tiredness and fatigue, I'm certain. So comparatively to some level of fatigue without the medication, perhaps my brain has been clearer. Can't say for sure. Then the other medications, they are still going with the same ones. Currently, I don't know if I need all of them to keep going. What I've got, I don't know if I need to like go through, what's it called? I don't know, where you take it for a little while, then stop, and then take it for a little while, then stop. So it'll be like boost my levels to a certain point, and then just try and get as much as I can through my diet to stop them from dipping too quickly, and then eventually they will dip and I'll need to boost them artificially through the supplements again. I'm unsure. But the last medication for me to discuss, because all of the other supplements currently fall under an umbrella bracket of these that help fight off illness, tiredness, and fatigue. That's pretty much what they're for. This last one, my longest one, is my inhaler. I'm getting better at taking it. So I currently have 2 inhalers, one of which I keep with me or in my kung fu bag at all times. Oh no, my alarm's going off. Oh no. Dismiss. Yeah, so I keep one with me or in my kung fu bag, and that, well, I've got 2. I have like 4 inhalers. One of them is just a blue one. In fact, 2 of them are blue ones. Blue one in the kung fu bag, blue one somewhere in this room, up there, yes. They are the relief inhalers, so if I'm having an asthma attack, that's what to use. Then I have my 106 inhalers. These are the ones they've asked me to use regularly. I'm not using them as regularly as they suggested necessarily, but I'm using them a lot closer to that than I used to. So it used to be that I'd often forget I have them, and then when I remember I have them, I'm like, oh yeah, inhaler, mouthwash, blah, because they've said use mouthwash after you do it, otherwise you might get thrush. However, I've now left one of my 2 of those inhalers in the bathroom, in the box that holds my toothpaste and toothbrush. Meaning, I use it before I brush my teeth, and then I mouthwash afterwards, because my current toothpaste, like, it really is not pleasant to let sit, and I don't use actual mouthwash, I just rinse my mouth out with water and gargle, like the remnants that get stuck to my tongue are gargled to work as a like makeshift mouthwash type deal. So that's good. I haven't noticed any like major positive effects, but perhaps that's part of why at the end of my run I wasn't like huffing and puffing as much as I might have been if I hadn't been using that. And so I'm using that at least once a day, because sometimes like after work I just go around, I brush my teeth at work. Like if I finish a little early, I've got a little baggie of toothpaste and toothbrush. So I will just go into like the bathroom at work and brush my teeth. I'll be like, right, I brush my teeth before I finished at work, and so I come home straight to bed, you know. And if I do that, that's fine. If I don't have time and I brush my teeth here, I will use my inhaler. And overall, I think that's going to be good enough, right? Because they want me to use it 2 puffs twice daily, every day. It's going to run out really quickly if I'm doing that, and also it's just a lot to remember when you've got to do all the like mouthwashy stuff afterwards. If I didn't, it'd be a lot easier to remember, but I do, because I don't want thrush. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with overall how that's going along. I think that my health is, again, overall headed in a positive trajectory. It's just a matter of maintaining that, because, like, supplements are meant to supplement, right? They're meant to help in an area you're already doing okay. And I'm not using them like that. I'm using them as medication to put me into a space where I'm okay and able to function. I'm probably going to have to make more dietary changes in ways that I'm not going to be super happy about, because most of the foods that contain the things that I'm supplementing are foods that I don't currently really like. But I'm sure that if I find ways to consume them that I don't mind, then it should be fine. Like broccoli, for example. Don't like broccoli, but if I have it in a soup, it's fine. So soups are going to be good, but I need to find more options, because eating soup every single day is an unpleasant experience. I've been there, I've done that before. So yeah, we'll find out how well I do on that regard. Regardless though, points that I want to look out for next vlog, or whenever it is, I'm hoping to have done more work to assist the plantar fasciitis. Specifically, I'm effectively doing like a ground up work on this. I'm going to work on everything, obviously. I'm going to focus mostly at the bottom and work my way up, because it might be that resolving the issue with my feet might help everything in alignment coming upwards, so knees, hips, spine, right? Because they all work in conjunction, and it might be the case that the muscles on the bottom of my feet, the arch, etc., might be weak enough that, like, my foot, instead of being like this, is like a little bit flat, not like collapsed, but just a little down. So strengthening it might help create that better shape. Once I've got the better shape, that might help with my posture, so to speak, and put my knees into a better alignment, which will help with the recovery for the knee, which will then hopefully help with the, like, positioning of my hips and hip mobility and low back mobility, etc. Work my way up. That'll help resolve everything. That's the plan. As I said, things I'm looking to focus on. Feet. Next vlog, I'm hoping to, I may forget to report on it, but I'm hoping to have a positive report on the progress of my feet. 2. Kung Fu wise. Currently, I'm going for my penultimate belt, right? And I've got 8 months, no, not 8 months, 5 months maybe? 6.5 months, roughly, to get to the point where I can grade, and I will be very confident that I'm going to pass. And currently I don't know everything on the syllabus. It makes it very hard to practice, and the stuff that I do know I need to practice more often, as well as polishing up the stuff that isn't on the syllabus. So all of the stuff from previous grades, because I can get marked down if that stuff lets me down. Especially the super basic stuff, because I know it all, but my body isn't at a point where it's got the level of strength and endurance to maintain it all to the sort of my peak ability. For example, the horse stance, theoretically you're meant to have your thighs parallel to the ground, so if someone put like a stick on it, it wouldn't roll off, it would just sit wherever they placed it. Now, getting to that point, really hard. Getting to that point without leaning forward, even harder. Getting to that point without leaning forwards and staying there, really hard. And like, you're meant to have your knees at a certain angle, all that jazz. So practicing things that will help with that, because part of my current grade, I've got to do all the forms. Going to have to do that next belt and on black belt, obviously. And the first form isn't actually a form, but I'm going to have to do it in this like collection of all the forms, and the vast majority of it is at that level, and I need to maintain that level the whole way through. And my thighs, they're just not having it right now. My hips, they often will like go into like anterior pelvic tilt, as I get into that lower position, and I've got to manually like force them round every time I get into that position. Meaning, if I do some steps, I have to then do it again. Say manually force them around. It is mental communication, not like using my hands or anything like that. It is using those muscles to control that area. But being able to get into that position without having that happen in the first place, really hard. I'd have to do it very slowly and be like, okay, keep your hips tucked, so to speak. So that's an area for improvement of Kung Fu, as well as trying to learn like another bullet point. There's 13 headings on the grading. If I learn another one, because I think I have experienced at least 9 out of 13 or something like that, and then the other 4, I have no idea. Out of those 9, I think 4 of which I'm relatively confident with, the other 5 need a lot of practice. So obviously I'm going to be focusing on getting that practice as well. But if I can learn another bullet point, that's another thing for me to practice. And so then there'll be 6 things that I need to practice lots of, and everything else is just keeping it fresh, so to speak. And then bullet point 3 is to lower my blood pressure. I've not mentioned it, but my blood pressure has gone up since I started the ADHD medication. They said it might happen, and that's fine, right? I'm perfectly happy with that. As a notable side effect, it's not gone up a lot. It's not going into like full-on high blood pressure, but it has taken me into like pre-hypertension. So I want to get back down from pre-hypertension just to like normal. It's going to be tough because I'm still taking the medication, and I expect that for the next little while, as the medication like builds up in my system, it's going to go up some more, right? So I need to try and avoid too much stress and then just focus on my diet in that regard. So once I eat the next batch of stuff that I've already batch cooked, once I have made the following set, because I've got all the stuff I need for another batch of soup, so I'll make another batch of soup. Once I've made that, I will then prepare my next chop, right? And then I'll bear in mind, like, okay, what are all the things that are going to help with blood pressure in regards to nutrition? I'm probably going to take up moments of meditation again occasionally, because I've kind of stopped outside of movement meditation through Kung Fu. And so, yeah, they're the three points, so to speak. Foot, learn a new thing and practice what I've got. Blood pressure. Don't know if I'm going to remember to report on those next, especially considering I also want to remember to report on the inositol, whether I get any more or not. Though that might not be the next ReeVlog, depends on how long it takes. But regardless, I said this would be quick, and if you take all of the points I've made as individual points, I've made loads, so they were all really quick. The video as a whole, perhaps less so. But I'm going to go. I've got to do my daily exercises that I haven't done for the last, 3 days, as well as hoover, because I've been cleaning today and have made enough floor space to make hoovering actually valuable. So, it's about damn time. Regardless though, I'll catch you cats on the flip-flop. And goodbye.